For James Baldwin, born in 1924, World War II was a turning point, as he called it, in the relationship of African Americans to American society. To put it briefly and somewhat too simply, wrote Baldwin, a certain hope died. A certain respect for white Americans faded. One began to pity them or to hate them. Not only did many blacks lose respect for whites, but those who had fought lost another quality which had been instilled in them over several generations: fear of whites. And that would have far-reaching implications as the soldiers began to return home after World War II. You said, they said, wait until the war is over. Well, you're damn right, a black soldier remarked. Wait until it's over. To wait until it's over here and the war will really be fought down there in the South. I hear these young fellows talk, and I know they mean it. A new person will come back home embedded with more hate than ever before. In Walter Mosley's Devil in a Blue Dress, Easy Rawlins recalled how the war had altered his perceptions of whites. He had spent 5 years with white men from Africa to Italy, France, and Germany. I ate with them and slept with them, and I killed enough blue-eyed young men to know that they were just as afraid to die as I was. With the end of World War II, the conviction grew. The way it used to be did not have to be. And African Americans, many of them veterans, who give voice to that feeling in ways that white America could no longer ignore. In August Wilson's powerful play, King Hedley II, as he is known in the community, is a black veteran of World War II. And he wanted everyone to know how he felt. I want everyone to know that King Hedley is here. And I want everybody to know, just like my daddy, that you can't fuck with me. I want you to get the picture, each and every one of you. And I want you to hold on, and I want you to hold me to it. When you see me coming, that's who you had better see. Now, they done had World War I and World War II. And the next motherfucker that fucks with me, it's going to be World War III. So long before Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks took center stage, black men and black women, mostly as individuals, but numbering the thousands, had begun to challenge Jim Crow. Capitalizing on the gains made earlier in the 1930s and 40s and 50s, the civil rights movement was able to mobilize the black community in ways that captured the imagination of much of the world. These mostly young men and women willing to use their bodies to give additional voice and reinforcement to the conviction and the commitments brought home by scores of World War II veterans. The way it used to be, they insisted, did not have to be. And across the South, and many of you remember this, of course, all too vividly, they challenged the laws, filled the jails, endured intimidation, harassment, and abuse. Children, as you may recall, had to move through gauntlets of cursing, spitting, screaming white parents. And there were the beatings in the train and bus stations and jails. The churches, the homes, the schools, and buses that were burned to the ground. The bombings, the clubbings, the murders. Few could forget the marches, the oratory, the raised expectations, the defiant songs, some of them rooted in old spirituals. It made for powerful theater. And the drama often became critical in the success of the demonstrators, if only by infuriating the opponents. A new generation embraced the promise of a new Reconstruction, more sweeping, more enduring than what had transpired a century earlier. So the Civil Rights Movement struck down the legal barriers of segregation and disfranchisement of the South, dismantling a racial caste system that had been evolving over some 4 centuries. The achievements were impressive and far-reaching, with striking gains in educational achievement, in clerical and professional positions, in skilled labor, in political representation, and in the entertainment and sports industries. Affirmative action opened positions hitherto reserved for whites, significantly expanding the black middle class. Politically, from 1960 to 1980, the number of black registered voters in the South more than tripled. But there were limits, significant limits. Although the Civil Rights Movement left its mark on the South, the changes were often slow to develop. They often took on a dramatic importance that was misleading. In much of the rural South, an unwritten code perpetuated what was once enshrined in law and Jim Crow signs. The signs all but disappeared. In fact, they've begun to show up in museums. But the attitudes that had made them necessary were not so easy to change. Whites found it difficult, in some places impossible, to learn new ways, to shake off the old attitudes, to give up that easily the grim determination to recover the past, to find new methods for commanding black lives and black labor. Charles Sherrod came to southwest Georgia in 1961 with SNCC. He was later elected to the City Council of Albany, Georgia. From that perspective, he looked back over the past several decades to assess the impact of the movement. Those people who shot at us and blew up churches and all that 20 years ago, they haven't gone anywhere. The attitudes are still there. Their behavior has changed because we have got a little power. They won't do anything they can't get away with. In much of the South, blacks remain dependent on whites for economic sustenance. Making a commitment to the struggle, abandoning accommodation for confrontation, could prove to be a costly decision. Teachers lost their jobs. Families were denied credit. Mortgages were foreclosed. And any challenges to white supremacy, whatever form they took, individual or collective, faced with violent reprisals. That is, power still lay with the dominant whites. And every black family had to weigh carefully any decision that challenged the prevailing racial protocol. The name of the game is survival, one black activist explained. Their whole livelihood depends on the white people, the white system. Civil rights, drinking water from a public fountain, eating in restaurants, going to bathrooms, all that is secondary to survival. For many blacks, the optimism about redeeming America would be frustrated and disappointed. Martin Luther King himself acknowledged this changing mood. The practical cost of change for the nation up to this point has been cheap, he conceded. The limited reforms have been obtained at bargain rates. There are no expenses. There are no new taxes. No new taxes required for blacks to share lunch counters, libraries,